Death doesn't announce itself the way movies suggest. No dramatic music, no slow motion moments. Just a Tuesday that feels like every other Tuesday until it doesn't. I've worked at the Castellano estate for 4 years, long enough to know the rhythm of the house, the way sunlight moves through the east windows at dawn, which floorboards creak, how Marco Castellano takes his coffee, black, 2 sugars, in the porcelain cup his mother brought from Sicily 40 years ago. My name is Naomi Chen. On paper, I'm household staff, N. Chen. To most people here, I'm the quiet one, the efficient one, the one who doesn't ask questions and doesn't need managing. I'm good at being invisible. It's a survival skill I learned early. When you're a black woman working in houses owned by powerful men, invisibility keeps you employed, keeps you safe, keeps you from becoming a problem someone needs to solve. Marco Castellano is not a good man. I should clarify that before this goes any further. He's not good in the way we pretend powerful men are good when we need to justify working for them. He's a boss, not the corporate kind. The kind where business means things that don't show up on tax returns, where loyalty is currency and betrayal is terminal. He's 56, distinguished in the way men become when their silver hair costs more to maintain than most people's cars. Tailored suits, soft-spoken. The kind of calm that comes from knowing you're the most dangerous person in any room. I've never been afraid of him. Not exactly. Fear implies surprise. I know what he is, what he's capable of. There's clarity in that. I clean his house. I prepare his meals when the chef is off. I keep his world ordered while he disorders other people's worlds. That's the arrangement. Simple. Transactional. Safe. Until the morning, it stopped being safe. It started with the coffee. 6 a.m. I was in the kitchen, going through the morning routine. Marco had a meeting at 7:30. Early for him, which meant important. The kind of important where men arrive in black cars and leave without their smiles. I ground the beans. The sound filled the kitchen. Harsh, necessary. While the coffee brewed, I set out his breakfast. Toast, jam. The morning paper he still insisted on reading in physical form. The coffee finished, I poured it into his cup, added the sugar, stirred it exactly 12 times. He'd once mentioned he could taste it if you stirred less, though I'm still not sure if he was serious. I was carrying the tray toward the dining room when I smelled it. Almonds, bitter, wrong. I stopped, set the tray down on the counter, picked up the cup, brought it closer to my face. The smell was faint. You'd miss it if you weren't paying attention. But I was paying attention. I always pay attention. That's how you survive in houses like this. Cyanide smells like bitter almonds. I know this because my father was a chemist before he died. He used to tell me stories about compounds and reactions, how certain poisons worked, what to look for. He said knowledge was protection, that if you understood how things killed you, you could avoid dying stupidly. I stared at the coffee. Someone had poisoned it. Someone in this house. Someone with access to Marco's kitchen. Someone who knew his routine well enough to know he'd drink this cup at exactly 6:15 a.m., the way he had every morning for 4 years. My heart was loud. Too loud. But my hands stayed steady. I poured the coffee down the sink, rinsed the cup, made a fresh pot, poured a new cup, added sugar, stirred, normal coffee, safe coffee. I carried the tray to the dining room. Marco was already seated, reading something on his phone. He looked up when I entered, nodded. That was his version of good morning. I set the cup in front of him, the toast, the paper. He picked up the cup, brought it to his lips. Mr. Castellano, he paused, looked at me. I almost never spoke during breakfast. My voice was an interruption in his routine. The first pot burned, I said. I made a fresh one. This might be slightly weaker. It was a lie, but it was the kind of lie that made sense. That didn't raise questions. He took a sip, nodded. It's fine. I left the room. In the kitchen, I stood very still, trying to think, trying to understand what I'd just prevented and what it meant. Someone had tried to kill Marco Castellano in his own house, using his morning coffee, and I'd just saved his life. But I couldn't tell him, couldn't explain why I'd poured out the first cup, because the moment I admitted I'd noticed something wrong, questions would follow. Questions about how I knew what cyanide smelled like, about what else I knew, about whether I could be trusted or whether I was the kind of person who noticed too much. In Marco's world, noticing too much was often more dangerous than noticing nothing at all. I heard footsteps, turned. Luca, Marco's son, 29, handsome in the careless way of men who've never had to work for anything. He ran the logistics side of the family business, which meant he moved money and merchandise in ways that kept lawyers employed. He walked past me to the coffee pot, poured himself a cup. "Morning, Naomi." "Good morning, Mr. Castellano." He smiled. He always smiled at me, the kind of smile that was friendly but not. That acknowledged my presence while reminding me of my place. He took a sip of coffee. "Tastes different today." "New beans?" I said. "The supplier changed the blend." He set the cup down. "Tell them to change it back." "Yes, sir." He left. I looked at the coffee pot, at the cup he'd just set down, at the sink where I'd poured out the poison. Two thoughts arrived simultaneously. First, someone in this house wanted Marco dead. Second, I was the only person who knew about it, and the weight of that knowledge felt heavier than anything I'd ever carried. The rest of the day moved like a held breath. Marco went to his meeting, came back, had lunch, worked in his study. Everything normal, everything the same. I moved through the house like always, cleaning, organizing, existing in the spaces between other people's lives. But I was watching, paying attention in a different way now, looking for tells, for signs, for whoever had put poison in a coffee cup and thought they'd get away with it. The estate employed 7 people: me, Luca, Sophia, Marco's assistant, sharp-eyed and sharper-tongued, Carlo, the groundskeeper, 60 years old, hands like tree roots, Teresa, the chef, temperamental and talented, and 2 guards who rotated shifts, faces I knew but names I didn't. One of them was a murderer, or wanted to be. That evening, I was in the hallway outside Marco's study when I heard voices, low, urgent. I shouldn't have stopped, shouldn't have listened, but I did. Getting impatient, Marco's voice, calm but edged. "I'll handle it." "Luca, defensive? You've been handling it for 3 months. I'm starting to think you don't know how. The shipment was delayed, not lost. There's a difference. There's no difference if it costs me money." Silence. Then, "You don't trust me anymore." Luca said it quietly, hurt underneath the words. "I trust you to be my son. I don't trust you to be competent. Those are 2 separate things." Another silence, heavier, then footsteps, moving toward the door. I walked away quickly, down the hall, into the kitchen. By the time Luca emerged from the study, I was at the sink, washing dishes, looking like I'd been there all along. He walked past without seeing me, but I saw him, saw the tightness in his jaw, the way his hands were curled into fists. I thought motive. I thought opportunity. I thought, I'm watching someone plan his father's murder, and I can't do anything about it. That night, I stayed late. I told myself it was to finish cleaning the 2nd floor, but really, it was because I needed to think, needed to be in the house when it was quiet, when I could hear it breathe. I was in the library in all dark wood and leather and books that smelled like time, when I heard the door open. Marco stood in the doorway. He looked surprised to see me, or as surprised as a man like him ever looked. "Naomi, you're still here." "Finishing up, sir." He walked into the room, poured himself a drink from the crystal decanter on the side table. Scotch, expensive, the kind that costs more than my monthly rent. "You've been with us 4 years." "Yes, sir." "You're reliable, efficient, never a problem." He took a sip. "I appreciate that." "Thank you, sir." He looked at me then, really looked, like he was seeing me for the first time instead of seeing through me. "My wife used to say I didn't notice people enough, that I treated staff like furniture." He smiled slightly. She wasn't wrong. I didn't know what to say, so I said nothing. "You remind me of her sometimes, the way you move through the house, quietly capable, never demanding attention." "That's kind of you to say." "It's not kindness, it's observation." He finished his drink, set the glass down. "Good night, Naomi." "Good night, Mr. Castellano." He left. I stood in the library surrounded by books and silence, and I thought about his wife. She died 6 years ago. Cancer, quick and brutal. Marco had shut down for months after, became harder, colder, more dangerous. I wondered if that's what grief did to men like him. Turned them into fortresses, made them incapable of seeing threats from the inside because they were too busy guarding the walls. I turned off the lights, locked up, drove home to my apartment, one bedroom, secondhand furniture, plants I kept alive out of spite. I made tea, sat by the window, watched the city lights blur into constellations. I'd saved a man's life today, a man who probably didn't deserve saving, a man who'd built his empire on things that destroyed other people's lives. But I'd saved him anyway, because it was the right thing to do, or because I couldn't live with myself if I hadn't, or because some part of me still believed that life was sacred, even when the person living it wasn't. I didn't sleep well that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I smelled almonds, bitter, wrong, the scent of a death that didn't happen. Not yet. The next morning, I arrived at 6 a.m. sharp. The kitchen was cold, empty. I turned on the lights, started the coffee. The same routine, the same rhythm. But everything felt different now, sharper, like the air itself was paying attention. I made Marco's coffee carefully, watched it brew, smelled it, normal, safe. I poured it, added sugar, stirred exactly 12 times. Carried it to the dining room. Marco was there. Same seat, same paper, same phone. I set the cup down. He picked it up, drank, nothing happened. He continued reading, alive, breathing, unaware. I returned to the kitchen. Teresa was there, the chef. She was prepping vegetables for lunch, knife moving with the precision of someone who'd done this 10,000 times. "Morning," she said without looking up. "Morning. Coffee smells better today." My stomach tightened. The supplier fixed the blend. Good. The other one was shit. She kept chopping. Onions, celery, garlic. The knife made soft, rhythmic sounds against the cutting board. I watched her hands, steady, confident, capable of cutting vegetables, capable of other things too. "You been with the family long?" I asked. 12 years, since before Mrs. Castellano passed." She glanced at me. "Why?" "Just curious. Curiosity's expensive around here." She said it lightly, but the warning was clear. I nodded, started cleaning the breakfast dishes. Teresa kept chopping. After a moment, "You're smart, staying quiet, doing your job. That's how you survive in a house like this." "Is that what you do?" "Every damn day." She swept the vegetables into a bowl. "People think working for men like Marco is exciting, dangerous. It's not. It's just exhausting. You're always watching, always careful. One mistake, and you're gone. Or worse." "Worse?" She looked at me then. Really looked. "You seem like a smart girl, Naomi. So I'll say this once. Don't notice things you shouldn't. Don't ask questions you don't want answered. And don't ever think you're more important than you are." She picked up the bowl, walked toward the stove. I stood there, hands in cold dishwater, understanding. Teresa knew something, or suspected something, and she was telling me to stay out of it, which meant either she was involved or she'd seen something she wished she hadn't. That afternoon, Sophia asked to speak with me. Sophia Romano, Marco's assistant, 37. Designer clothes and a law degree she never used. She handled Marco's schedule, his correspondence, his life. She was efficient, cold, and smarter than anyone gave her credit for. I found her in Marco's study. She was sitting at his desk, something I'd never seen anyone else do, going through papers with the focus of someone looking for something specific. "Naomi, close the door." I did. She didn't look up, just kept scanning documents. "How long have you worked here?" 4 years. "And in that time, have you noticed anything unusual?" "Unusual how?" "People acting strangely, changes in routine, anything that doesn't fit." My heart was beating faster. I kept my face neutral. "No, ma'am." "Really?" She finally looked at me. Her eyes were dark, calculating. "Because I've noticed several unusual things. Money missing from petty cash, calls from untraceable numbers. And yesterday, someone tried to access Marco's private files from inside the house. I wouldn't know anything about that. Wouldn't you?" She stood, walked around the desk, stopped 3 feet from me. "You're here every day, 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. sometimes. You see everything, hear everything. You're invisible, Naomi, which makes you the perfect witness. I'm just here to clean. No one is just anything." She crossed her arms. "Someone in this house is planning something. Something that ends badly for Marco. and I need to know who. Why are you asking me? Because you're the only person here I don't suspect. She said it simply, factually. Teresa's been embezzling, small amounts but consistently. Luca's drowning in gambling debts he thinks his father doesn't know about. Carlo's son is in prison, needs $50,000 for a lawyer. Everyone has a motive, except you. Maybe I'm just better at hiding it. She smiled, almost genuine. Maybe, but I don't think so. I think you're exactly what you appear to be, honest, hard-working, invisible. She moved closer. So I'm asking, have you seen anything? I could have told her, right then, about the coffee, the almonds, the poison I'd poured down the sink. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the way she'd said everyone has a motive, like she was testing me, like my answer would determine whether I stayed invisible or became a problem. Or maybe it was simpler than that. Maybe I didn't trust anyone in this house, not even the woman who claimed to be looking for the truth. I haven't seen anything, I said. She studied me. 5 seconds, 10, then nodded. If you do, tell me, before something irreversible happens. Yes, ma'am. She dismissed me with a gesture. I left the study, closed the door quietly behind me. In the hallway, I stopped, leaned against the wall, tried to slow my breathing. Sophia was investigating, which meant she suspected something too, which meant I wasn't the only one who'd noticed cracks in the ordinary lie this household told itself. But it also meant the situation was escalating, that whoever wanted Marco dead was getting impatient, that the next attempt might be soon, and I was the only person who knew about the first one. That evening, Luca asked me to stay late. Not unusual. Sometimes there were dinners, events, situations where extra staff was needed. But this felt different. I was cleaning the upstairs hallway when he found me. Naomi, I need you to do something for me. Of course, Mr. Castellano. He looked around, making sure we were alone. Then, my father's medication, the pills he takes for his blood pressure. I need you to count them. I blinked. Sir, just count them. Tell me how many are in the bottle. I don't think I should. It's not a request. His voice was harder now, the friendly mask slipping. Count them? Tonight? Tell me tomorrow. He walked away. I stood there, holding a dust cloth, trying to understand. Marco took medication for his blood pressure, had for years. The bottle was in his bathroom, on the counter, in plain sight. Why would Luca want me to count them? Unless he suspected someone was tampering with them, adding something, or removing something. Unless he was worried about his father. Actually worried, despite the tension between them. Despite the hurt I'd heard in his voice when Marco said he didn't trust him. Or unless he was covering his tracks. Making sure if something happened, someone else, someone like me, would be implicated. I didn't know which, couldn't tell. But I knew I had to make a choice. At 8 p.m., when the house was quiet, I went to Marco's bathroom. The medication bottle was there. Orange plastic, white cap, label printed with his name and dosage instructions. I opened it, counted. 32 pills, a month's supply. He'd just refilled it last week. There should have been 34. He took one in the morning, one at night. 2 were missing. I stared at the bottle, at the pills inside, trying to understand. Maybe he dropped some, or forgotten to take them, or taken extras. Or maybe someone had removed them, ground them up, used them for something else. Something that required Marco's medication to make something lethal look like something natural. A heart attack, a stroke. The kind of death that wouldn't raise suspicions because a man his age, with his stress level, with his blood pressure issues, that's just how these things happen sometimes. I put the cap back on, returned the bottle to its exact position, left the bathroom. Luca was waiting in the hallway. Well, 32. Should be 34. Yes. He nodded slowly. Processing. Did you notice anything else? Powder residue? Pills that looked different? No. He ran a hand through his hair, stressed, scared. Someone's trying to kill him, Naomi. Don't lie. You're too smart to lie badly. He looked at me, really looked. You see everything. You're invisible, so people forget you're there. But you see. I know you do. I didn't confirm or deny, just waited. I need your help, he said quietly. I need you to watch, to tell me if you notice anything. Anyone acting strangely, anything out of place. I can't trust Sophia. She's too close. Teresa's hiding something. Carlo barely speaks, but you... He paused. You're invisible. You can see things the rest of us miss. Why do you care? You hate your father. The words came out before I could stop them. Too honest, too direct. But Luca didn't get angry, just looked sad. I hate what he is, what he's made me. But he's still my father, and I'm not ready to lose him. Not like this. We stood there in the hallway, two people who didn't belong to this world, trying to save someone who did. I'll watch, I said finally. But I can't promise I'll tell you what I see. Why not? Because I don't know who to trust, including you. He smiled, empty, understanding. Smart, that's good. Stay smart, Naomi. It might keep you alive. He left. I stood alone in the hallway, surrounded by expensive art and thick silence. I'd just agreed to spy for Luca, to watch for threats, to protect a man I'd already saved once without anyone knowing, and I still didn't know who the real threat was. But I knew one thing. The cracks were widening. The ordinary lie was falling apart. And soon, someone was going to die. I just hoped it wouldn't be me. The attempt came 3 days later. I'd been watching, paying attention with a focus that bordered on paranoia. Every cup of coffee, every meal, every pill bottle, every person who entered Marco's space. Nothing, no signs, no tells. Whoever wanted him dead had gone quiet, or careful, or both. I started to wonder if I'd imagined the whole thing, if the bitter almond smell had been my mind playing tricks, if the missing pills were just coincidence. Then Friday arrived. Marco had a meeting, important enough that it happened at the estate instead of one of his offices downtown. 4 men I didn't recognize, expensive suits, cold expressions. They arrived at noon in black cars with tinted windows. I was instructed to prepare coffee, bring it to the study, then disappear. Standard procedure for these meetings. I'd done it 100 times. I made the coffee, poured 5 cups, arranged them on a silver tray with cream and sugar on the side. I was carrying the tray toward the study when I felt it. Not a smell this time, a sense, an instinct. The same one that had made me stop 3 days ago. I set the tray down on a hallway table, looked at the cups. They looked normal, smelled normal, but something was wrong. I picked up 1 cup, held it to the light. The liquid was slightly cloudy, just barely. The kind of thing you'd miss if you weren't looking for it. I picked up the other cups. 2 were clear, 2 were cloudy, same as the first. 3 of the 5 cups had something in them, not in the coffee itself, in the cups. Pre-placed, dissolved into liquid as soon as I'd poured. I calculated quickly. Marco would take the first cup, always did. Host's privilege, which meant the cloudy cup I was holding was meant for him. The other 2 cloudy cups were meant for guests. But which guests? Random or specific? And what was in them? Poison, truth serum, something that would make them compliant or dead or cooperative in ways that only men like Marco understood? My hands were shaking. I set the cup down carefully. I should have told someone. Should have dumped all the cups, called Sophia or Luca or even Marco himself. But I didn't. Because if I revealed I knew, I'd become a target. I'd be the person who knew too much, the witness who needed to be eliminated. And because some part of me, the part raised by a chemist father who taught me that knowledge was survival, understood that this moment was bigger than 1 poisoned cup. This was war, hidden, quiet, but war nonetheless. And I was the only neutral party, the only one who could move through it unseen. I picked up the tray, walked to the study, knocked. Enter. I opened the door. Marco and his 4 guests were seated around the conference table, papers spread out, serious faces. I set the tray on the side table, started to arrange the cups. Just leave them, Naomi, Marco said. We'll serve ourselves. Yes, sir. I left quickly, closed the door behind me, stood in the hallway, heart hammering. They were going to drink those cups. Marco, 2 of his guests. And I'd just served them poison. No, not poison. I'd prevented that twice already. This was different. This was a choice I was being forced to make. Save Marco again and reveal myself. or let this play out and see who died. I couldn't do nothing, but I couldn't burst in and explain without putting myself at risk. I needed another option. I ran to the kitchen. Teresa was there, working on dinner prep. "Fire alarm," I said. She looked at me. "What?" "The fire alarm in the hallway. I think it's malfunctioning. Smells like something burning." "I don't smell anything." "Near the study. The wiring might be—" The fire alarm went off, loud, piercing, filling the entire house with sound. Teresa stared at me. "Did you—" "We need to evacuate. Protocol." She nodded. Years of training kicked in. She moved toward the door, started ushering the other staff outside. I ran to the study, opened the door without knocking. Marco and his guests were standing, annoyed, confused. "Fire alarm, sir. We need to evacuate. Protocol." "It's probably nothing. Sir, please. Regulations require immediate evacuation during any alarm. Your guest's safety?" One of the men stood. "He's right. Better safe than sorry." They filed out. Marco last, irritated but compliant. I watched them go, then looked at the coffee cups. 3 were still full, untouched. 2 were half empty. Marco hadn't drunk from his yet, but 2 of the guests had. I watched their backs as they descended the stairs. Normal, walking steadily, no signs of distress, which meant either the dose was slow acting, or I'd been wrong about what was in the cups, or I'd just made everything worse. 15 minutes later, after the fire department confirmed it was a false alarm, everyone returned inside. Marco pulled me aside. His expression was neutral, but his eyes were sharp, assessing. "Did you pull that alarm?" "No, sir. I smelled smoke, near the wiring. I thought—" "You thought wrong?" He said it quietly, dangerously. "Do you understand what you just interrupted? That meeting was worth $5 million, and you ended it with a false alarm." "I'm sorry, sir. I was just concerned. Your job is to clean, not to be concerned, not to think, to clean." He stepped closer. "If this happens again, you're done here. Understood?" "Yes, sir." He walked away. I stood in the hallway, shaking, not from fear of losing my job, from understanding. He was angry because I'd interrupted something important, which meant the meeting mattered, which meant if I'd let him drink that coffee, something significant would have changed. But the 2 guests who'd drunk from the cloudy cups, they seemed fine, walking normally, talking normally, no signs of poisoning. So, what had been in those cups? I went back to the study after everyone left. The cups were gone. Someone, Sophia probably, had cleaned up. Removed the evidence. I was losing control of the situation. Or maybe I'd never had control. Maybe I was just a piece being moved around a board I couldn't see. That night, I stayed late again. Not because I wanted to, because I needed to search. I waited until the house was quiet, until Marco was in his bedroom, until the staff had gone home. Then I started looking. The kitchen first. Checked every container, every jar, every bottle, looking for substances that shouldn't be there. Chemical compounds, powder residues, anything that could be weaponized. Nothing. The study next. Searched drawers, cabinets, looking for evidence, documentation, anything that would explain what was happening. Nothing. I was in Marco's bedroom, searching his bathroom, checking pill bottles, when I heard footsteps. I froze. The door opened. Marco stood there, wearing a robe, holding a glass of water, looking at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Naomi, what are you doing?" My mind raced, searching for an explanation, a lie that would make sense. "Your medication, sir. Mr. Luca mentioned—" "You might be running low. I was checking to see if I needed to arrange a refill." "At 11 p.m.? I'm behind on my tasks. I was finishing up." He studied me, long enough that my palms started sweating. Then, "My son asked you to check my medication?" "Yes, sir." "Why would he do that?" "I don't know, sir. I assumed he was concerned about your health." Marco moved into the bathroom, picked up the pill bottle, looked at it, looked at me. "How many are in here?" "I didn't count." "Don't lie to me, Naomi. You counted. Otherwise you wouldn't know if I needed a refill." Trapped, by my own lie, by my own attempt at invisibility. 31, I said. "Should be 32. I took one this evening." "Yes, sir." "So my son is having you monitor my medication. Why?" "I don't know. But you agreed to do it." "Yes, sir." He set the bottle down, crossed his arms. You've worked here 4 years. Never once have you done anything that wasn't explicitly asked of you. You're efficient, invisible, perfect. And now, suddenly you're counting pills, checking on me, pulling fire alarms. He moved closer. What changed? Nothing, sir. Naomi. He said my name like a warning. I've built my life on reading people, knowing when they're lying, when they're hiding something, and you're hiding something. I didn't respond. Didn't know how. Are you trying to hurt me? Is someone paying you? No. Then what? The truth sat in my throat, heavy, dangerous, begging to be released. But I couldn't say it. Couldn't explain that I'd saved his life twice, that I was trying to protect him, that everyone in this house was suspect, and I was the only one watching, because the moment I said it, I'd become visible, and visibility was death. I'm just doing my job, I said quietly. No, you're not. You're doing something else. Something I don't understand yet. He stepped back. Get out. And tomorrow, we're going to have a longer conversation about your future here. I left quickly, down the stairs, out through the service entrance. I sat in my car, hands gripping the steering wheel, and I knew. Tomorrow, I'd be fired, or worse. Because Marco didn't trust mysteries, and I'd become one. I'd tried to save him, 3 times now, and he didn't even know. Didn't believe it was possible. Because to him, I was just the maid, invisible, incapable of being anything more. And now that invisibility was the thing that would destroy me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my apartment, drinking tea that had gone cold, watching the city lights blur through the window, trying to decide. Go back tomorrow, face Marco, try to explain, or disappear, walk away, let whatever was going to happen without me. The smart choice was obvious. Leave, protect myself. I'd done everything I could, more than I should have. I didn't know Marco Castellano anything, but something kept me there, sitting, thinking, unable to walk away from something unfinished. Maybe it was pride, or stubbornness, or the part of me that still believed doing the right thing mattered even when it cost you everything. At 5 a.m., I got dressed, drove to the estate, parked in my usual spot. The service entrance was locked again. I knocked. Luca opened the door. His expression was grim. You shouldn't have come. Your father asked me to. He asked you to so he could fire you properly, in person. He respects you enough for that at least. I didn't do anything wrong. Didn't you? He let me in, closed the door. You pulled a fire alarm during the most important meeting of the year. You've been sneaking around, acting strange. My father thinks you're working for someone. Maybe the people he was meeting with. Maybe his enemies. He's not sure. But he's sure you're not what you seem. I'm exactly what I seem. I'm trying to keep him alive. The words came out before I could stop them. Raw, honest. Luca stared at me. What? Someone's trying to kill him. I've been watching, preventing it, 3 times now. 3. He stopped, processed. The coffee? The medication? The meeting? Yes. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because I don't know who's doing it. It could be you, or Sophia, or Teresa, or any of the guards. The moment I say something, I become a target, or I get blamed, or both. So you just, what, played hero? Alone? I played cautious. I did what I thought would keep him alive without getting myself killed. He ran a hand over his face, exhausted. You should have told me. Why? So you could do what? Protect him? You just told me 3 days ago that you hate what he is. Hating what someone is and wanting them dead are different things. His voice cracked slightly. He's still my father. We stood there in the kitchen, early morning light filtering through the windows, the house still sleeping around us. He's going to fire you, Luca said finally. I know. Unless you can prove what you're saying, show him evidence, make him believe you. I don't have evidence. I have instincts, and timing, and a cup of coffee I poured down a sink 4 days ago. Then you're done. I know. He looked at me for a long moment. Then, wait here. He left. I stood alone in the kitchen, the same space I'd occupied every morning for 4 years, the same counter, the same sink, the same coffee maker, everything familiar, everything about to end. Luca returned 10 minutes later. He was carrying a laptop. Security footage, he said. My father doesn't know I have access, but I do. I've been reviewing it, looking for anything. He opened the laptop, pulled up a video file. This is from 4 days ago, the morning you said someone poisoned the coffee. He hit play. The footage showed the kitchen, black and white, time-stamped 5:47 a.m. Teresa entered the frame, alone. She moved to the coffee maker, looked around, then pulled something from her pocket, small, dark. She opened the coffee maker, added the contents to the grounds, closed it, left. The footage continued. 6:02 a.m. I entered the frame, started the coffee. Everything normal. Then I brought it close to my face, smelled it. My expression changed. I poured it down the sink, made a new pot. Luca stopped the video. You were right. Teresa poisoned it, and you saved him. Why would Teresa? Her brother. He's in debt to some people in Queens, bad people. They told her, kill Marco or they kill her brother. She chose her family. How do you know that? Because I've been investigating too, trying to figure out who wanted him dead. Teresa was my top suspect. This confirms it. He closed the laptop. You need to show this to my father. He won't believe me. He'll believe the video. Will he? Or will he see a black maid who noticed something she shouldn't have and decide I'm still a threat? Luca opened his mouth, closed it, because he knew I was right. In Marco's world, being right wasn't enough. You had to be the right kind of person to be believed. Then what do you want to do? He asked. I want him to see it without knowing it came from me. I want him to understand what happened, and I want Teresa arrested, or punished, or whatever passes for justice in your world. And you, what happens to you? I disappear, find another job, another house, another life where I'm invisible and safe. That's not fair. No, it's not. But fairness is a luxury people like me don't have. He looked at me with something like respect or pity. I couldn't tell. I'll handle it, he said. I'll show him the footage, tell him I found it, take credit. You'll be cleared. Thank you. Don't thank me, just get out, before this gets worse. I nodded, turned to leave. Naomi? I stopped. You saved my father's life, 3 times. And he's never going to know it was you. That's not right, but... He paused. Thank you, for doing it anyway. I didn't respond, just left. I walked out of the estate for the last time, didn't look back, didn't say goodbye to anyone else. I got in my car, started the engine, and then I saw him. Marco, standing at the study window, looking down at me. Our eyes met. For 3 seconds we just stared at each other, him in his house, me in my car, the distance between us more than physical. Then he nodded, once, brief, maybe acknowledgement, maybe dismissal. I couldn't tell. I drove away. 2 days later, I read about it in the news. Teresa Romano, 47, arrested in connection with conspiracy to commit murder. Sources say Romano attempted to poison Marco Castellano, prominent businessman. At the request of organized crime figures, she is being held without bail. The article continued. Details about her brother, the debt, the threats, how she'd been caught through security footage that showed her tampering with Castellano's morning coffee. Luca had done what he'd promised, shown Marco the footage, explained everything. Teresa had been arrested within hours. Marco's life was saved, justice was served, the threat was eliminated, and my name was nowhere in the story, because that's how it works. The invisible stay invisible, even when they're heroes, especially then. I never heard from Marco again. No call, no letter, no acknowledgement. Luca sent me a text 3 days later. Thank you. He knows. He won't say it, but he knows. I deleted the message, blocked the number, found a new job 2 weeks later. A different house, different family, same work, same invisibility. But something had changed. Not in the world. In me, I'd saved a life 3 times, at risk to myself, without recognition, without reward, and I'd do it again. Not because Marco Castellano deserved it, not because I'd get credit, but because some things are right to do even when doing them cost you everything. That's not justice. That's not fairness. That's just being human when the world wants you to be anything else. 6 months later, I received a package. No return address, just my name, my apartment. Inside was a letter. Handwritten, expensive paper. Naomi, I'm told you saved my life, multiple times. I'm told you did it quietly. without asking for anything, without making yourself known. I don't know how to thank someone for that, particularly someone I failed to see, failed to value, failed to protect in return. Luca tells me you refused payment, refused recognition, that you wanted only to disappear. I'm respecting that wish. This letter is my only contact, my only acknowledgement. But I want you to know, I see you now, not as staff, not as someone invisible, as the person who understood something I didn't. That courage isn't always loud, that heroism isn't always recognized, that sometimes the most important things happen in silence. You were right not to trust me, not to tell me. I would have doubted you, suspected you, destroyed you for trying to help. That shame is mine to carry. Enclosed is a reference letter. Use it or don't. But if you ever need anything, anything at all, call the number at the bottom of this page, day or night, for any reason. You saved my life. I owe you a debt I can never repay, but I will try. For the rest of my life, I will try. Thank you. Marco Castellano. I read the letter 3 times, then I folded it carefully, put it in a drawer with other things I wanted to keep but didn't need to look at every day. The reference letter was genuine, glowing, would open doors I'd thought were permanently closed. I never called the number, never asked for anything, never cashed in the debt, because that wasn't why I'd done it. I'd done it because a life was worth saving, even a complicated one, even a dangerous one, even one that might never acknowledge mine. A year later, I saw Marco again. I was working at a new estate, different family, different city, but same work, same invisibility. He was there for a meeting, business, the kind that happens in studies with closed doors. I was bringing coffee to the room, same routine, same rhythm. Our eyes met in the hallway. He stopped, looked at me, really looked. Naomi. Mr. Castellano, you're here. I work here now. I see. He glanced at the coffee tray in my hands. Still saving lives? Still making coffee. He smiled, slight, real. The best coffee I've ever had. It was poisoned. I know. That's why it was the best. He paused. Are you well? I'm fine. Good. That's good. He seemed unsure, uncomfortable, like he wanted to say more but didn't know how. So I said it for him. I'm glad you're alive, Mr. Castellano. Marco, please. I'm glad you're alive, Marco. He nodded. Because of you. Because I noticed, that's all. No, not all. You noticed and you acted. Most people just notice. The hallway was quiet. Expensive art on the walls, thick carpet, everything designed to absorb sound, to keep secrets. I should go, I said. They're waiting for their coffee. Naomi? I stopped. Thank you. I know I said it in the letter, but I need to say it in person. Thank you for seeing me, even when I didn't see you. You're welcome. I walked past him, delivered the coffee, came back. He was gone, the hallway empty. Like he'd never been there, but he had been, and he'd seen me, really seen me. Finally, that should have felt like victory, like vindication, like the ending I'd earned, but mostly it just felt quiet, inevitable, like the truth finally catching up to the story we'd been telling. I still work in houses like these, still move through them invisibly, still clean and organize and exist in the spaces between other people's lives. But I'm different now. Not harder, not colder, just clearer. I understand that heroism isn't always recognized, that doing the right thing doesn't always come with rewards, that sometimes you save someone's life and they never even know your name. And that's okay, because the truth doesn't need an audience. It just needs to be true. I saved Marco Castellano's life 3 times. He refused to believe it was me, until he couldn't refuse anymore. That's not tragedy. That's just reality. The gap between what we are and what people see. The distance between action and acknowledgement. I've made peace with that distance. I move through houses, I clean, I notice, I act when action is needed, and I stay invisible. Because invisibility isn't weakness, it's protection, it's power, it's the ability to see everything while being seen as nothing. Marco learned that too late, but he learned it, and that has to be enough. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that morning, the bitter almond smell, the decision to pour the coffee down the sink, the moment where I chose to save a man who would never have saved me, and I don't regret it. Not the action, not the silence, Not the invisibility I maintained even when everything in me wanted to scream, I did this. I saved him. See me. Because being seen isn't the point. Living with yourself is the point. And I can live with myself. I'm a woman who cleans houses, who moves through expensive spaces, who exists in the margins of other people's power. But I'm also a woman who saved a life, 3 times, without fanfare, without reward, without recognition. And that's enough. More than enough. It's everything.